Alice and I became fast friends when we met 5 years ago as freshmen at the University of Michigan. We bonded over our shared Midwestern upbringing and strong Catholic faith. After graduating, I landed an engineering job in Chicago while Alice moved to New York to work in fashion merchandising. My parents, successful real estate developers, gifted me a condo as a graduation present. They believed in sharing their wealth with family while still alive. Alice and I stayed close despite the distance, visiting each other often. Our friendship turned romantic and we married in a beautiful church ceremony 2 years after college. As newlyweds, Alice and I were inseparable. Our physical intimacy was passionate and frequent. To our social circle, we were the perfect couple, soulmates who adored each other. A year into our marriage, we joyfully welcomed our son Liam. Parenthood shifted our focus to caring for our little boy. Our lifestyle was low-key, cooking dinners at home, going to church on Sundays. We weren't into partying or keeping up with the latest trends. Alice dressed modestly for work at the fashion magazine. Our marriage was built on a bedrock of trust, honesty, and affection. Alice was a natural mother, showering Liam with cuddles and kisses. While having an infant was tiring at times, we tackled the challenges as a team, communicating openly. I cherished our little family and the life Alice and I had built together. Everything seemed picture perfect. Then one day, Alice got called to attend Fashion Week in Paris at the last minute. Her boss insisted she fill in for a coworker who had fallen ill. Alice felt terrible about leaving Liam and me for a week. I reassured her we'd be fine and helped her pack for the trip. Our marriage had always been an open book. I had no reason to doubt Alice's fidelity or love for me. We were partners who shared everything. The night before she left, we made love tenderly, reaffirming our bond. I dropped her off at the airport the next morning with a long hug goodbye. On the third evening of Fashion Week, I was home with Liam, trying to keep busy and distract myself from missing Alice. I'd just gotten our son to sleep when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from my college buddy Mark. "Hey man, random question, but is Alice in Paris for work right now?" I frowned at the message, a strange unease settling in my stomach as I typed back. "Yeah, she's at Fashion Week for her magazine." "Why do you ask?" The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then popped back up. This is going to sound crazy, but I swear I just saw her having dinner with some guy at a restaurant here. I'm in Paris for a photography gig. I stared at my phone, rereading Mark's words over and over. It had to be a mistake. Alice would never betray me like that. We had a child, a life together built on complete love and trust. Still, I couldn't shake the knot of dread forming in my gut. "Are you sure it was her?" I messaged back, my hands shaking slightly. What did she look like? What was she wearing? Who was the guy? A long pause, then, stand by. I waited for several agonizing minutes, pacing the living room, running my hands through my hair. Liam cried out in his sleep and I rushed to soothe him, but my mind was racing. Finally, my phone pinged again. I snapped a quick pic from across the restaurant. Didn't want to send it in case I'm totally off base. "Let me know if you want me to though." My mouth went dry. I hesitated, finger hovering over the keypad. Did I really want to see photographic evidence if my wife was cheating on me? Could I handle that? But I had to know the truth, even if it destroyed me. "Send it," I typed back with numb fingers. The seconds seemed to stretch into hours as I waited for the picture to load. When it finally did, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All the air left my lungs in a harsh exhale. It was unmistakably Alice. She wore a slinky black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, cut low in the front and clinging to her curves. Her long dark hair was swept up in an elegant twist, a few tendrils framing her face. She looked stunning, her green eyes sparkling, red lips curved in an intimate smile. But it was her dinner companion that made my blood run cold. The man sitting across from her was devastatingly handsome in a sleek, expensive suit. Wavy black hair, chiseled features, a roguish smile. He oozed wealth, confidence, and charisma. And the way he was looking at my wife, the way their hands were clasped together on the tablecloth. I felt like I was going to be sick. Anger, disbelief, and anguish battled for dominance inside me as I stared at the photo, unable to look away. How could Alice do this to me, to our family? I thought I knew everything about her, that we shared a soul-deep connection. Had it all been a lie? With trembling fingers, I hit the call button next to Alice's contact photo, the one of her smiling in the sunlight with Liam in her arms. It rang once, twice, 5 times before clicking over to voicemail. I hung up without leaving a message, a sinking feeling in my stomach. 15 minutes later, just as I was debating calling again, a text from Alice popped up on my screen. "Hey babe, sorry I missed you. I'm at a work dinner and couldn't step away. I'll give you a call as soon as I can. Kiss Liam for me. Love you." I stared numbly at the words, reading them over and over again. More lies, so easily deployed. I felt like I didn't know my own wife anymore. Had I ever? Suddenly, I needed more proof, more answers. I couldn't confront Alice until I knew the full extent of her betrayal. I messaged Mark back. "I need you to do something for me. Can you keep an eye on Alice and let me know if anything else happens? Take more photos if you can. I have to get to the bottom of this before she comes home." "You got it, man," he replied immediately. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. Let me see what else I can find out." I sat on the couch, head in my hands, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, was having a romantic dinner with another man thousands of miles away while I sat at home clueless. The future I'd taken for granted had just imploded. The next morning, after a sleepless night alternating between crying jags and fits of rage, I bundled Liam into the car and drove to my sister Jenna's house. I couldn't bear to have him see me fall apart. Jenna took one look at my haggard face and pulled me into a tight hug. "What's going on?" she asked, her brow creased with concern. "You look awful, Andrew." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Just a choked sob as the events of the past 12 hours crashed over me again. Jenna led me to the couch and sat beside me, her hand on my back as I poured out the whole awful story. "I just can't believe," I said hoarsely when I'd finished, wiping my eyes. "I thought Alice and I had a perfect marriage. How could I have been so blind?" Jenna was quiet for a long moment. "You couldn't have known," she said finally. "Alice is an adult who made her own choices. This is not your fault, Andrew." But it felt like my fault. Maybe if I'd been a better husband somehow, paid more attention, Alice wouldn't have been tempted to stray. I felt like I'd failed my marriage, my family. "What are you going to do?" Jenna asked softly. I took a shuddering breath. I need answers before I confront her. I can't bear the thought of Alice lying to my face, trying to cover this up. "I need proof." Jenna nodded. "That's smart. You should know exactly what you're dealing with. Do you want me to keep Liam for a few days while you figure this out?" Tears of gratitude pricked my eyes. "That would be amazing, Jen. Thank you. I don't want him to see me like this." I hugged my son tightly, breathing in his sweet baby scent, before handing him over to my sister. Then I drove downtown to the offices of Jim Norcross, the best private investigator in Chicago. I'd never thought I'd have a reason to hire a PI, but I needed someone to uncover the truth about my wife. Jim was in his late 50s, an ex-cop with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He listened gravely as I laid out the situation, showing him the photo from Mark. I had to pause several times, my voice cracking, but Jim waited patiently. "I'll put my best guys on this, Andrew," he said when I'd finished. "We'll find out exactly what your wife has been up to in Paris, who she's been seeing. We'll get you the evidence you need for peace of mind and to protect yourself legally, if it comes to that." The thought of divorce made my stomach heave, but I knew I had to prepare for that possibility. "Thank you, Jim," I said, shaking his hand. "I appreciate your discretion in this matter." I felt numb as I left his office and drove home to my empty house. The silence was oppressive without Liam's giggles and Alice's warm presence. I poured myself a glass of scotch, then another, as I waited for my wife's nightly call. When Alice's face finally filled my phone screen, it took every ounce of willpower to smile back at her. She looked radiant, her green eyes sparkling as she told me about the designer showrooms she'd toured, the exclusive parties she'd attended. not a hint of guilt or unease in her voice. I studied her expression as she spoke, searching for any sign that she was lying to me, betraying me. But my wife had a flawless poker face. Her acting skills apparently extended beyond her college theater days. I felt like I was talking to a beautiful stranger wearing Alice's skin. "I miss you and Liam so much," she said, blowing a kiss at the screen. "I can't wait to be back in your arms, babe. Just a few more days." "We miss you too," I managed, the words like ashes in my mouth. "Hurry home to us." But as we said goodnight, I knew I wasn't ready to confront Alice. Not until Jim uncovered the full extent of what she'd done. I needed the truth, no matter how brutal, before I could look my wife in the eye again. The next few days passed in a haze of misery and alcohol. I barely ate or slept, ignoring concerned texts from friends and family. I went through the motions of work, but my mind was a million miles away, wondering what Alice was doing every minute. I was a wreck by the time Jim's email finally arrived, a sense of dread settling over me like a shroud as I clicked on the link to the online evidence folder his team had compiled. My hands shook and my heart raced as the page loaded. The first few photos were similar to the one Mark had sent. Alice out to dinner with the same mystery man, dancing at a club, walking along the Seine hand in hand. She was always impeccably dressed, all designer labels and 4-inch heels. A far cry from the jeans and t-shirts she lounged in at home. But as I scrolled further, the images became more intimate, more damning. Alice kissing her lover on a moonlit balcony, her arms twined around his neck. The two of them slipping into a hotel room, giggling conspiratorially. Alice in lacy lingerie I'd never seen before, posing provocatively on rumpled sheets. The videos were the final nail in the coffin of my marriage. I watched in horrified disbelief as my wife made love with another man, her cries of passion echoing through the speakers. She moved over him with an uninhibited sensuality I'd never witnessed in our own bedroom. I couldn't look away as I clicked through the files, each one a twist of the knife in my heart. Alice in the throes of ecstasy, arching under her lover's touch. The way she gazed at him adoringly, kissed him like she couldn't get enough. It was a level of raw desire and intimacy I'd thought was reserved only for me. Bile rose in my throat and I stumbled to the bathroom, retching until there was nothing left in my stomach. I collapsed on the tile floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. How could Alice throw away our life together, our love, for a few nights of sordid passion? Did our marriage vows mean nothing to her? Did I? I'd trusted her implicitly, built a family and a future around her. Now it was all crumbling to dust. Jim's email included information on Alice's lover. His name was Raphael Dubois, a wealthy French fashion photographer with a reputation as a playboy. Married, though that clearly hadn't stopped him from pursuing my wife. They'd met a few months prior on another of Alice's work trips to Paris. The timeline of the affair made me feel even sicker. All the late nights Alice had spent working at the office, the last-minute weekend trips that took her away from us. She'd been in another man's bed while I'd stayed home like a fool, trusting and clueless. I wanted to confront Alice immediately, to scream and rage and demand answers. But some masochistic part of me needed her to keep up the charade, to see how far she would take the lies. I needed to look into her eyes as she professed her love for me, knowing it was all a sham. So I pulled myself together enough to formulate a plan with Jim. He put together a file of the most incriminating evidence against Alice, the photos and videos that would leave no doubt about the extent of her betrayal. I would confront her with it when she got home, give her one chance to come clean. In the meantime, I had to act like everything was normal. I had to paste on a smile and ask about her day, tell her how much Liam and I missed her. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I was determined to see it through. I needed closure before I could decide what to do next. The night before Alice was due back from Paris, I lay awake in our bed for hours, my mind churning. I'd taken the next day off work, arranged for Liam to stay with my parents. I needed privacy for the confrontation that would blow my life apart. When Alice walked through the door the next afternoon, suitcases in hand and a sunny smile on her face, I thought I might shatter into a million pieces. She looked beautiful, glowing with happiness as she rushed to embrace me. I went through the motions of returning her hug, her kiss, while my heart screamed in agony. "I missed you so much, babe," Alice murmured against my neck. "I'm so glad to be home." I swallowed hard, steeling myself. "We need to talk. Now." Something in my voice made Alice pull back, her brow furrowing. "Andrew? What's wrong?" I led her to the couch, my legs unsteady. She sat beside me, confusion and concern etched on her face. God, she was good. If I didn't have the evidence burning a hole in my phone, I'd never suspect my wife was anything but devoted to me. "I know about Raphael," I said flatly, the name bitter on my tongue. "I know you've been having an affair." Alice blinked rapidly, her mouth falling open. For a split second, I saw pure panic flash in her green eyes before she shuttered her expression. "What? Andrew, what are you talking about? Who's Raphael?" A harsh laugh escaped me. Don't you dare try to deny it. I have proof, Alice. Photos, videos. I've seen everything." I held up my phone, the damning images queued up. Alice's face drained of color as she stared at the screen, at the undeniable evidence of her infidelity. Her hands trembled in her lap. I don't know what to say," she whispered finally, her voice cracking. "Andrew, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." White-hot rage surged through me. "A mistake?" I shouted, leaping to my feet. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home or missing a dentist appointment. You've been fucking another man for months, Alice. You've looked me in the eye and lied over and over again. You've betrayed me, our son, our marriage vows. How could you do this to us?" Tears streamed down Alice's face, but I was unmoved. "I never meant to hurt you," she pleaded. "It just happened. Raphael made me feel special, desired. I got caught up in the excitement of it all. But I love you, Andrew. You have to believe that. You and Liam are my world." I shook my head, disgust rising in my throat. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have cheated. You wouldn't have lied. I thought we had a partnership, Alice. I thought we shared everything. But now I don't even know who you are anymore." Alice reached for me, but I jerked away from her touch. "Andrew, please. We can get through this. I'll end things with Raphael, I swear. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. To earn back your trust." I stared at my wife, at the stranger with my son's eyes. In that moment, I knew our marriage was over. I could never look at Alice the same way again, never fully trust her. The woman I'd loved with every fiber of my being had been an illusion. "No," I said quietly, the fight draining out of me. "We can't get through this. I can't be with you anymore, Alice. I want a divorce." Alice sobbed, her mascara running down her cheeks. "Jake, please don't do this. It was a mistake. I love you, I love our family. You should have thought of that before you spread your legs for him," I spat venomously. "You disgust me. You're not the woman I married. You're not fit to be Liam's mother." I grabbed her arm and hauled her up off the couch, ignoring her yelp of pain. I dragged her to the front door and shoved her out onto the porch. Alice stumbled and fell to her knees, crying hysterically. "Jake, I'm sorry," she wailed. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." I threw her suitcases out after her. "Get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret," I growled. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." With that, I slammed the door in her face, cutting off her anguished pleas. I slid to the floor, my whole body shaking with rage and grief. The future I'd cherished, the woman I'd adored, had just been ripped away. And I didn't know how I would ever recover. The next morning, I phoned my lawyer and told him to file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. I wanted sole custody of Liam. Alice's betrayal had voided any claim she had to my son. I wouldn't let her poison him the way she'd poisoned our marriage. My lawyer assured me we had an airtight case. The evidence against Alice was overwhelming. No judge would side with an unfaithful wife and mother. He recommended I move forward with haste before Alice could concoct false counter-accusations. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into building a new life for Liam and myself. I put the condo on the market, unable to bear the memories it held, and found us a cozy apartment across town. Liam's room I painted in a soothing green and filled with all his favorite toys. I took leave from work, devoting myself fully to my son's care. We went on adventures to the zoo, the children's museum, the park. I relished Liam's giggles and the way his little hand clutched mine trustingly. He was too young to understand why Mommy had disappeared. I dreaded the day I'd have to explain. 6 months later, I took a job in Seattle, determined to start fresh. Liam and I settled into a new routine, learning to navigate the world as a family of two. He struggled at first, missing his mom fiercely. That night, after tucking Liam into bed, I poured myself a glass of scotch and sat on the balcony, staring out at the twinkling Chicago skyline. I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The worst was behind us now. Alice could no longer hurt me. Liam and I would forge a wonderful life together, just the two of us. As I sipped my drink, my phone pinged with an incoming email. It was from Alice. My finger hovered over the delete button, but something made me pause. Call it morbid curiosity. I opened the message. "Dear Jake," it began. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I had to write this. I had to tell you one more time how sorry I am. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed our vows, our family, in the worst possible way. And I will regret it for the rest of my life. But I need you to know that it wasn't about love. I never loved Raphael. What I had with him was a fleeting escape, a chance to feel desired and adventurous. It was selfish and immature. It meant nothing compared to what you and I shared. You were my best friend, my soulmate, the father of my child. I will never forgive myself for throwing that away, for destroying the most precious thing in my life. I don't expect you to forgive me either. I know I have to live with the consequences of my actions. But I want you to know that I will spend the rest of my days trying to be a better person. A better mother to Liam, even if from afar. I will never stop loving you both. I hope that someday you can think of me with something other than hatred. Not for my sake, but for Liam's. I wish you and Liam every happiness. You both deserve the world. I'm just sorry I couldn't be the one to give it to you. Be well, Jake. Alice." By the time I finished reading, I felt like I could see a glimmer of the woman I'd once loved in Alice's words. The woman who had been my partner and best friend. I knew I could never trust her again, could never let her back into my life. But maybe, in time, I could find it in my heart to think of her with compassion instead of resentment. If only for Liam's sake. He deserved to know that he was born of love, even if that love had turned to ashes. I took a deep breath of the balmy summer air and deleted Alice's message. Then I turned my face towards the future, towards the new life Liam and I would build together. A life full of love and laughter and second chances. As I headed inside to sleep, I felt a lightness in my step. We were going to be okay. Better than okay.